What's up, everybody? Dude, these NBA playoffs don't disappoint. We're back with another episode. It's going to be a Coffee with Cage episode, but we're going to kick it off a little different. We're doing this on YouTube Live, so we're going to let people kind of pour into the room, so to speak, and we'll just talk about the Bucks game, the Bucks Nets game, because here I am. I predicted the Bucks are going to win the series 2-0. I thought it was all over. Now Kyrie goes down. PJ Tucker has a huge game. Cage jumps on this live, says the Nets are in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Well,
they're in trouble.
Part of winning is staying healthy, right? That's part of the game, right? They haven't had Harden, and now Kyrie goes down with the ankle injury, and as good as Durant is, he's not playing that well today. I mean, last time I looked at, he was like 9 for 24 or something crazy, but he can keep him in it. But I mean, look, when Kyrie went down, the game was either tied or, it was a couple points in either direction. It looked like the Nets were doing just fine. And, obviously the Bucks are a good team. They're a good defensive team. Tucker's been playing Durant pretty close to but, with only one real offensive weapon.
You think some of those were fouls? You think some of those were fouls on PJ Tucker?
There are some that aren't called fouls, and there are some that are called fouls that aren't fouls. I think that one towards the end of the half that they gave Durant, where, the end of the first half, I think Tucker got all ball. I think they would have challenged that. They would have won, but they couldn't challenge because they literally just – listen, you Coach Butthole, you call him, but he had one of the best challenges.
Dude, stop branding me. I got LeBron's fans sending me DMs. Now Buckholzer's 3 fans are going to send me DMs. Stop branding me like this.
All three.
I'm a nice guy.
His kids.
Cage, let people know I'm a nice guy.
Well, guys, he thinks he's a nice guy. So we can let him keep believing that if you like. But yeah, I mean, listen, there was a challenge. It was Giannis. I thought it was an offensive foul. But Giannis, he put both his elbows up and he kind of went into Green, I think it was, and wound up being an offensive foul. Giannis, he got the basket, but when offensive foul would have been Giannis's third. They would have taken him out of the half. And
every time Giannis drives, I think it's either an offensive foul or he's going to step on someone's ankle.
Pretty much, yeah. But so this one, talk about was a great challenge because it was overturned, so it became a 3-point play. So instead of taking a basket off the board, it became scoring a basket and not having a foul, the third foul on your best player who had to come out of the game, and he's been on fire. I mean, he came out. I mean, one of the hallmarks, right, of a good team, if not a championship team, is, this is gonna sound terrible. You got to step on the neck of your injured opponent, right? So, I mean, that's the deal, right? I mean, Kyrie went down, and second half they come out, and the Bucks started off on like 7-2 run or something. Next thing you know, instead of it being what was like 53-48, it's 60-50, and they're off and running, and the Nets just, they can't catch up. One of the things, going into this, what made the Nets such a, a nasty matchup is who's gonna match up with them offense-wise, right? And it's funny because, going into these series, there was talk of the Hawks, right? The people who are Hawks were like, hey, we're going to match up great against the Nets because you can't stop them. It's just who can put up points with them. And yet, as you've said time and time again, I mean, look, let's not give the defense of Milwaukee that much credit. Let's give the injuries. But ultimately, the defense of Philly and the defense of the Bucks are starting to show up here. And they always say defense wins championships, right? So
the first 2 games were blowouts. The second 2 games were tough defense. I felt like in both games the refs let them play. I really did. They just let them play.
I mean, look, it's interesting, right? Because I mean, you can't factor those injuries in, right? I mean, Kyrie's good, but here's the thing, right? We were all, at least I know I was, saying the Nets are going to win the championship, and I'm not going to give KD that much credit because he basically grabbed Kyrie and Harden, and I'm not giving him credit for winning the championship if he goes and makes a super team to do it. Well, he lost Harden, and I was like, all right, if he can win with Kyrie, then he basically doing what LeBron did, right? And now there's no Kyrie, and the team doesn't look so good. You know what I mean? Like the way.
Do you think Durant has enough in the tank to carry this team by himself? Let's say Harden, Kyrie don't come back and play. Do you think he has enough in the tank?
He has to play a lot better than he has been than he played today. You know what I mean? Like, look, there are times where it looks like he can't miss. Like, game 3 where he came back, down the stretch, and he just it looked like, all right, he's going to take over now. and then Bruce Brown happened. And Bruce Brown decided when he was going to make it rain. But
that game is going to end up being a bigger game than it seemed at that
huge.
moment.
It's huge. Right?
That game is. They had a chance. The Nets had a chance to win that game at the end, and at that time, with Kyrie still healthy, it didn't seem like there was anything that was going to stop the Nets. It was just a blimp on the radar. It was one game, and you come back here. The Bucks played a really good game. They toughened up defensively, and the Nets lost Kyrie. That's going to be a defining moment. That's wow.
I mean, look. Normally, what I'd say is they haven't been able to game plan for just KD. We'll give the Nets, their coaching staff, their team now a chance. If they're without Kyrie and Harden in the next game, it's game 5, you'd figure they'd have to find a way to run different plays that are going to get Durant the ball with some space, right? Whether it be pick and roll plays, you name it, who knows. They'll have to switch their offense up to get Durant some room, and they haven't had to do that. He's always had somebody with him. I guess we'll see what happens. Game 5 is going to be huge. Game 5 is going to be gigantic.
All right, Paige. How was your weekend? I mean, we didn't get a chance to catch up this weekend. Anything top of mind in the hobby? Any stories? Any positivity?
I like seeing, I like seeing all the card show stuff going on. I like seeing that. I like seeing, stuff like that go on. I saw like a Miami Airport Convention Center show today. I saw pictures of that live. A couple of shows. Like it was Philly show this weekend. I like seeing people post pictures of like card show pickups. You know what I mean? Like that's cool. I got a couple messages of people who went to some local shows and hey, I traded for this. I got this Patrick Mahomes. I traded these 2 cards for this. Then I traded that card, added this, and I got this. And then I went to another table and I traded all that up for a Patrick Mahomes rookie. And I'm like, all right, well, that's fun. You know what I mean? Like you can enjoy that and maybe even get something now at a discounted price maybe. Probably not Mahomes.
What's Ian's favorite last pickup? Like his favorite card in his set that he just recently picked up?
Let's see. A favorite recent pickup. So I think I showed you some cards. So he's watching Loki, the show that just came out. So I picked up a Loki card in a trade and gave that over to him. Also, people
a creative trade too. This was a multi-asset trade Cage put together.
Yeah, so I mean, we got that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else fun that he's added into his collection. He traded for some Pokemon cards recently. What did he trade at the last? He was selling stuff at the last show. He likes, he's more of like a wax ripper. He likes to open wax. We opened a box. Our Friday opening was a box of Topps Flagship, just a regular Series 1 box. And, I do those just because it's something to open and, do it. This was Series 2. But I got to tell you, I mean, for $100, which is what I paid, which is, by the way, is a good price for a regular box, you get one hit and it's not a guaranteed auto. We got like a single color Javi Baez jersey swatch was our one hit for the whole box. And you're like, what? Like, it wasn't exactly that. I don't think we got a Ke'Bryan Hayes, who was the big rookie. I think we got a single one of his cards, not a base, not anything in the box. It definitely is a money-losing box, but it's kind of like, one of those things we do. You open up a box, you hope for the best. You realize, you got a 85% chance that you're losing money. It's like playing a slot machine.
Are you ready to get started with the show?
Yeah, as soon as you are, man. Let's do it.
All right, because this is right on topic. I wouldn't have said it otherwise. So PK Cards asks, and guys, this is our weekly Coffee and Cage episode. We have tons of questions to go through. We're going to kind of keep it short. I'm going to try to keep it under an hour. Really looking forward to this one. PK Cards asks, Cage, do you put together any sets? Maybe Topps Flagship with Ian. Something I enjoy doing, and it isn't too expensive. It also gives you all the rookies in case someone blows up.
I mean, it's a great call. I think we probably would just keep all the rookies, when we open the boxes, just in case somebody blows up. I got to tell you my thoughts on set building. Set building used to be the thing. When I was a kid, used to buy a box of cards, you buy a bunch of packs of cards, and it was like, let's put them in a binder, let's collect the whole set, let's do it. And when I came back into this hobby, strong 3 years ago, I was like, I'm going to start building some sets, right? I started building, the Pokemon 1999 first edition set, and I started building the refractor set of baseball 1993 finest baseball refractor set. I look back on those decisions as mistakes.
By the way, if you guys ever want to get Cage a gift, he's in love with that 93.
I love that.
Finest set. He talks about it every episode.
And yet I don't own any more of them. I don't own them anymore. And I'm about to explain the story. So obviously Topps flagship is different than this, right? But if I could go back and change some of the stuff that I did, right? Trying to build the 93 finest refractor set, right? I would put all this money into it, and I'd grab a Wade Boggs, and I'd grab a Fred McGriff, or I'd grab a Lee Smith, I'd grab a Frank Thomas, which is a great card. I love Frank Thomas. I'd grab a McGuire, grab a, Don Mattingly, and all these cards. And I'm like, I'm going to put this set together. I'm going to grab this one, I'm going to grab that one. I like the All-Star, the green ones. And I wish instead that right off the bat, before the prices went up, I would have just grabbed the Griffey and a Nolan Ryan. The same thing with the Pokemon set. I have that whole set minus the Charizard. I spent as much, if not more, on that set than I would have spent on Charizard as I was building that set. And oftentimes we've talked about this. Would I trade the whole rest of the set for the Zard? You know what I mean? And so the answer is sort of no. I'll tell you what I do with Ian. That's similar to set building, and then we can go from there. But it's one of those things I learned, right? Like the set building, I don't think it carries as much as it did. You know what I mean? I don't think people. I think you might actually be better off, grabbing the best guy, the best card, the most expensive one right off the bat instead of building the set. Maybe fill the set in after that. I've always seemed to, start building the set with like, all right, I have this much money. Let me start with the set, and then you get to the end and you're like, well, how am I going to get these huge pieces now? I've done it backwards.
Hypothetically, if someone offered you a Charizard for the rest of your set, you take it in a heartbeat, right?
I don't know. Maybe like a couple months ago, but it's kind of what you talked about with the time machine, right?
I don't talk about time machines ever.
You did. You said in our last episode, you get in the time machine, you go back in time, you're able to get these cards at the prices that they were before this whole jump up. Well, there's a Charizard. Is it the best looking Charizard 10? I mean, it's funny. 10 is a 10 is a 10 is a 10. It's not a 10. There's a Zard 10 on eBay. When the guy has
it's not as nice as Logan Paul's.
Well,
it's not as nice as Logan Paul's.
So
we'll get you started.
That's a BGS 10, but this one here, it's a PSA 10, and it's on eBay for $265 or best offer. I mean, there were people making trades, telling everybody this was a $500,000 card, even though it never sold for over $397. But it was all of a sudden it was $500,000. But it has come down. I would have to do some math and have to piece my set out. But I'm sure the rest of the set has come down too, because part of the reason we talk about this all the time, part of the reason it's like the rising tide lifts all ships, right? That Zard is moving, that's what moved the other things. So I don't know. It's a maybe. I would do the math. Can I say probably? Anyway, so just to the question, we collect players. So Ian has binders. Right? He does try to build sets. He built like a Pokemon set. You count them out, you do the numbers on them. But instead, what we do is, if we open up boxes, we'll do binders of players across different releases. So he'll have, a binder with, the Ultra Pro pages in it, and he'll have, like 3 or 4 pages of Kyrie, some Chronicles, some Prism, some Optics, some Select. And when they come in, a couple pages of Durant, a couple pages of LeBron. And like you said, it gives you all the rookies in case someone blows up. I'll never forget last year, I was raiding his binder for LeBron Prism base cards and LeBron Optic base cards. He was giving me bowl cards to give away because we were just like, whatever, we'll put them in the binder, LeBron base cards all of a sudden were like, $20 for just a base ungraded Prism, with the Lakers uniform, or the Optic ones. So, to the same token, in case someone blows up. But that's what we do. I try not to build sets because, I mean, you wind up having to spend too much money on guys that are never going to appreciate. And I should have learned this lesson. One of the first hand collated sets that I built after having like an 87 Topps, I tried to go back. I built a 1985 Topps set, and I'll never forget the last card that I needed to complete it. It was a Baltimore Oriole. His name was Len Sakata. It's just like the weirdest card. He's wearing glasses, but that was the last card I needed to finish. I remember finding it in a show and making the stupid mistake being a kid saying, that's the last card I need to complete the set. It was like a penny card or a nickel card. And the guy was like, you need $2 for it. And I'm like, I don't care. I'll give you $2 because I need that for the set.
Scrupulous with kids too. And scrupulous.
And I didn't care. I was like, $2, here you go. I won't have ice cream later. Not that I need it. So, but yeah, the sets, I've come around on sets poorly. You know, like
Here's the
Seth
short
usually-
answer. Cage loves building sets, but they're not profitable.
We all love building sets, right? Because that's the collection, right? We all want to build. We want everything, right? But you know, in Top Shot, I decided to buy all 287 of the Series 1 set, and that was a cool thing to have a whole set. But if I would have just put all my money into LeBron Series 1 out of 3,000 when they were $60 each, instead of trying to buy, you know, all of these random Devontae Grahams and Cody Zeller moments, I probably would have done better. So, who knows? But yeah,
All right. Dennis Patrick Zender asks, it's 2026, and you guys have gotten to your target weight,
I love
and
this
studies show Coke Zero is healthier than coconut water. He's a funny guy. Name 2 things that have happened in the hobby that we weren't expecting.
2 things that happened in our hobby that weren't expected. So I'm fast forwarding 5 years now. 2 unexpected things in our hobby. So 1, I believe there will be a consolidation or a buyout in the grading world. Okay, I think that somebody, and it might not necessarily be like, you know, PSA buying SGC, but I do believe that one of those grading companies that coming in now is going to get bought out by somebody. You know, maybe they get bought out by like an auction house, or, you know, so, who knows? But they don't have to necessarily be bought out by another grading company. But I think there's going to be some consolidation in that space. You know, I think it would be weird for me to say I only think there's going to be 3 grading companies left when all is said and done, but I don't think that's exactly too unexpected. But that's one thing. I think in 2026, you're not going to have this glut of grading stuff that we have now. And let's see. Coke Zero is healthier than coconut water. I love it. I'm going to be skinny then. Let's see. 2 things that happened in our hobby that we weren't expecting. Let's see. One more. Weren't expecting. Devontae Graham is like a perennial all-star with 4 championships and everybody. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have any more of his cards, really, so I hope that doesn't happen. I'll feel like an idiot. I feel like I sold the stuff where, you know, I shouldn't have sold it. Let's see. I mean, this is a fun one, man, because I can't, you know, I have predictions, but they're not predictions that people aren't.
We're gonna see multiple 7-figure card sales.
I think we're gonna see
And then
multiple 7-figure card sales between now and the end of the year. I think we might see,
Like in the 10 million, 10 to 20 million range.
I think we might see, you know, let's just call Babe Ruth, you know, the LeBron, you know, the mantle. They're all in the 5 and change range. I would predict that between now and the end of this year, not just 2026, that record is broken twice more by the end of this
Wow.
year. I think there's going to be more cards sold, you know, whether it's a fractional or whoever it may be. I think that'll be broken at least twice more this year. So I'm trying to.
Let me ask you something then.
Yeah,
Let's
please.
say you're the commissioner of the hobby.
Mhm.
Do you accept fractional as a record-breaking sale?
Yeah, 100%. As long as there's a sale.
Wow.
As long as somebody so
I don't know.
so different. I'm not saying I accept the valuation in fractional as a sale. I'm saying that if someone purchases a card for a record price and then goes to fractional, that's fine. I'm not saying the valuation in fractional
Okay,
counts.
fair.
Because it's not gonna, unless
That's
they
fair.
fractional if they fractional 100% of it, sure. I think
Let's say
you can make an argument.
Let's say they do. Let's say they do. Would you count that as a rec sale?
I think you can, because that means the asset has been paid for in that amount. You know what I mean? It's not just not being bought by one person; it's being bought by an entire group of people.
Luca Nation, you guys listening? Curious. Does a fractional sale where they offer 100% of the card should that be? What's the word I'm looking for? Respected as much as a 1-to-1 individual private sale? I'm curious. I'm curious what our Luca Nation has to say.
I'm gonna say one more thing for our hobby, and I don't know whether this really counts in our hobby or not, but I'm gonna say this. By 2026, I think that there are very few NFT collectibles. I think NFTs will still be here, but I think you're going to have even less in 2026 than you have right now. And let me do this as a YouTube, you know, live as a part of an episode.
Collect NFTs aren't a part of the hobby, by the way.
Well, they I'm in Top Shot. I'm talking about like those kind of things. They definitely are, you know, and now Topps is doing NFTs on wax, and Panini has put out their NFTs, so it definitely is part of the hobby. But listen, it's a chasing thing, right? So right now in that NFT space, it feels a lot like Top Shot did in February. Everybody's just throwing money at things, right? Whether it's Bored Apes or camels or whatever the heck else is coming, dogs and whatever else is coming out today, Zed Run, you name it. I just, and it seems to me like you could basically like scribble a doodle on a piece of paper and someone's going to give you Ethereum for it, right? It's just so quick to just drop an Ethereum. To me, that it's dangerous. I worry like in 6 months how many people are going to be left holding bags. So again, if you love that stuff, you want to buy it, you want to put your money on it, that's fine. But
that wasn't the question, though.
You said what? What was the question?
Name 2 things in our hobby we weren't expecting.
Yeah, I know. So one, I gave they're going to have a consolidation of grading, and then you went off and asked another different question about me being a fractional share, like the commissioner. So another thing that's not being expected, I think you're going to have in 5 years, you're going to have less hobby participants than you have now. I do. I don't think this is going to last 5 years. So there's you weren't expecting?
He woke up a cynic today. I knew it.
Cynic. I tried it. Listen, guys, everybody can't be a cheerleader for the hobby. Everybody can't be that this is going to be, we're in the second inning of a huge game and buy all these things and it's going to be great forever and you can basically quit your corporate job right now and buy and sell baseball cards forever. I can tell you I've seen this happen, not to the extent that's happened in the last 18 years, but we've had these explosions in the hobby before, right? We have. And they don't last forever. Sure, there are some differences. It used to be, I was talking about this with a friend, when your Mark McGwire 1985 Topps Olympic team card went from $5 to $100, to get that $100, you had to go to your neighborhood. You had to go to your local store. You had to go to a local card show. There wasn't eBay. There wasn't, I couldn't find someone in China who was going to buy it from me. It's, there's definitely more to this hobby now, including grading and just a million other things. But a lot of this is just the past, and a lot of it also is just what I'm reading in the fickle nature of the participants of the hobby. And when I say it's going to be smaller, it's because we're going to shave off a lot of those people who were not here 2 years ago. And people
why can't they be replaced by 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids and who want to get into the hobby and want to get into collecting? People also get older and join the hobby. I think
collecting has been here with cards forever. There's always
not like this. Not exactly. Like this.
No, but so you're mixing two things. Sure, 13, 14, 15-year-olds have always come into the hobby to some extent. What blew this up was not kids coming into it. What blew this up was the quick flip. What blew this up was it was just another area that people looked at, not because they loved the cards. It was another area that people looked at to be able to come and make money in. That's it, plain and simple. There's a huge chunk of people in this asset class right now who are buying retail and flipping it, who are buying product and flipping it, who are getting in good with a distributor and flipping their product, who are getting product and breaking that product because there's money to be made in it. There are people who do the same thing with sneakers. There are people who do the same thing. But the way the hobby is going now, a lot of that is not there. A lot of the way to make that money and people are so quick to jump to the next way to make money that I think you're not going to have those people here. Sure, there'll be 13, 14, 15-year-olds who come in. Yeah, please.
You're the grandmaster.
I'm not the grandmaster.
You're the chess master. You're the grandmaster. So I'll take your word. But I think there's a lot of people, a lot of kids that have look to a Rips, look to a Sam Conrad, look to those type of kids as role models, and use that as an example of like, while I'm still in school, I could work side jobs like mowing lawns and just use that income to buy into cards. And who knows? I have more options to either pay for my college or not even go to college at all because I'm going to be a businessman. I think there's some of those stories around, and I think that they're growing as well. And I think they have content creators to look at.
There are a lot of those stories, and there were more last year. And there were very few stories of their friends who got into it who are down 40% since February. And there's way more of that now than there was last year or in 2019. And that's the difference. It used to be, no matter who told you to get in, you get in and you can make money. Now it's not. And I'm just listen. I'm calling it like it is, man. You can frost it. You can put you can shine it up if you like. And trust me, I'm not saying there's no way to make money in the hobby, man. I'm not. Well, nobody wants to eat a cake without frosting, right? So, but here's the deal, right?
Cage puts frosting on his Rice Krispie treat cake.
Dude, I eat frosting by itself. I'll just put a spoon in the frosting and eat it. I don't care. But that's not the point. The point is, there's money to be made here, but it's just not. It's not easy money anymore, right? There's not. And for whatever it's worth, a lot of the people who were in this for the last 18 months were in it because it was easy money. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. But I'm telling you, I know because I talked to a lot of them. A lot of my friends who couldn't care less about baseball cards. They were like, "Oh, are cards really back? What do I got to do? I go in my basement and find cards and grade them, and I can go to Walmart. I can go." They don't really care about the cards. They're not trying to collect cards. They're saying, "What do I do to take this $100 and turn it into $500?" And that, it's not as easy to do this year as it was last year.
Jordan asks, with Olympic, and I don't know if you know this, but let's go this direction. With Olympic trials happening now and the Olympics less than 6 weeks away, how much attention are you paying to Olympic cards? And dude, shout out to Jordan's profile picture. It looks like, is that Dirk Nowitzki?
Looks like it, unless it's another very tall.
That's Dirk. That's a cool photo.
He's got a little Mavs jersey on there, so I would go with Dirk if I could. It could be Kristaps, but the guy looks like he's smiling and he can play, so it's probably not Kristaps. So I'm actually, to be honest, I'm not paying any attention to Olympic cards at all. I know a lot of people were to kind of stock up for them, so that they were, let's get some Olympic cards and basically dump them on the general public as the Olympics come. And I can make a nice little flip on them. To me, and I've been wrong on this, but I'm getting righter as the cards come back. But I've been steadfast in the first thing that drops when the hobby doesn't keep going like this. When we're no longer riding Elon Musk's rocket to the moon in the hobby, the fringe stuff is what is going to get tagged first. And if you're the one holding that fringe stuff, or you're stuck with that fringe stuff in at PSA, waiting while everything else is coming back, and people are just, I've been saying it about tennis, I've been saying it about golf, and yes, did I look wrong when those Upper Deck Tiger Woods cards were selling for $1,000 each? Sure, but they're not $1,000 each anymore. You know what I mean? And the more time that passes, the righter I feel, the righter I'm proven, as the pop continues to grow and people have made their money on them and they're on to the next thing. The Olympic stuff, while it's cool, it just seems to be another one of those things where it's, like Frogger, man. People are going to jump from one to the other. Olympics is something that I will bet you're going to see a lot of Olympics cards come out now to be dumped onto people. That it's not that they're rare. It's just that 6 months ago, people were buying Olympics cards knowing the Olympic stuff was coming. It's like buying the soccer cards in the lead up to the World Cup, or what we do with, buying cards for the lead up into the season. So the Olympics is not really sneaking up on too many people. And I'd be careful buying Olympic cards because the Olympics come every 4 years. I mean, well, it's really every 2, but nobody cares about the Winter Olympics at all.
And who are the, there's no Michael Phelps, right? You always need someone like that to drive the kind of like the bellwether of all the cards too. No.
Yeah, I mean, you need to have somebody. I mean, it doesn't have to be an American per se, right? Usain Bolt was always awesome for sprinting, and Michael Phelps was a great, on the Wheaties box and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd be careful with the Olympic stuff.
I really would. Be an American.
No, it doesn't. I mean, you go Michael Phelps, right? I mean, it doesn't.
I didn't pick Michael Phelps because he was American. I picked Michael Phelps because he was a record breaker.
Yeah, well, listen, he got the little munchies. He ate the Subway, and he swam well. He was the face of the Olympics. That's why you like him. Be honest.
Was he not?
You like him because he did a little wacky Wheatus. That was he was big for that.
Totally.
That's why you love him.
Totally. So that's why I brought the Mary Jane play, the 1994 Marvel.
There you go. I didn't say.
And the Bob Marley box.
Michael Phelps,
it's
Bob
all
Marley,
connected.
Mary Jane. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, man. The proof is in the plays. And Jordan, listen, before we move on to the next one, let me say this. If you're an Olympics guy, right, if you like the Olympics, you love watching the opening ceremonies. You like the pomp and circumstance of it. You remember, Cassius Clay. You remember Muhammad Ali, lighting the torch. You remember the '84 Olympics with, Carl Lewis, and you're Mary Lou Retton. If that's your thing, go ahead and buy the Olympics cards. Because that means you're collecting. But if the question is, how much attention am I paying to Olympics cards because I want to buy them now and dump them on somebody else? I'm not. I'm not doing that. But I know there are plenty of people who are.
All right, let's keep rocking. Anthony Martharano says, first card show ever yesterday. So much fun. Why would anyone ever try and sell anywhere
Is
but
Anthony
a
in
card
the
show?
live? Anthony, is Anthony the guy who got the Patrick Mahomes at the show yesterday? Put it in the comments if it's you. So listen, Anthony, I will tell you, I'm glad that happened for you. It actually makes me happy to read your comment and your question on it because a card show can be bad. I mean, I've been to card shows where, the guys try to take advantage of you, especially in a market the way that it is now where, let's see, Anthony was exactly the guy I was talking about how he was trading up from cards to get Patrick Mahomes. I think he got a PSA 8, if I remember right from reading the comments. But yeah, I mean, Anthony, that's awesome. It's great to hear. Like I said, I've been to card shows where the dealers at the show are trying to take advantage of kids. I've been to card shows where, just everybody wants too high of a price. I mean, I was at a show recently where we were trying to do some trading in the back, and the guy who ran the show told us we couldn't do it, and we had to go to the hotel lobby. There's still a lot of that in hobby. So to hear that the first card show you went to, you brought your stuff, and there was some liquidity in what you had, and that the dealers and the other people at the show were willing to work with you, make some trades, you name it. That's huge. It's great for me to hear because as you heard from the first 20 minutes, I mean, look, I like to be a ray of sunshine in this stuff too, but I also like to be a little real with you, right? I do. I don't want to always be, puffery here. I do want to tell you. So that it actually makes me happy because if in-person shows are going to come back the way they are, if someone like you goes to that first show and leaves saying, this is awesome, this is great. I'm going to go to more shows. I'm going to buy more cards. I can't wait to make trades at shows. I can't wait to meet other people and do this stuff. That's good for the longevity of the hobby and for the sustainability of it. So I'm happy that was the experience that you had. You're on mute.
All right, let's keep rocking. GTSM.High says, to both Andrew and Cage, what was your favorite card pickup of 2021? And what's a card in your collection you'll hold for life besides the MJ86 Fleer? I'll answer it quickly. I got this Marvel Spider-Man Holo that I really, really like. That was my pickup in 2021. I don't have a card I'll ever hold for life. I like to keep it moving. You guys know that.
So I have some 1933 Gaudy, not huge grade cards, like PSA 4s of Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig that I purchased 20 years ago. I mean, I purchased, a long time ago because I've always been collecting, and those are just cool cards to me, and I'm a Yankee fan, and I've held them through this, even though they've gone up tremendously, and I don't see any reason why I would ever sell those. My play from yesterday's episode, I hope everybody listened to my Billy Ripken play. I have one of those. It was given to me as a gift. It was a card I always wanted. It's a card I don't think, like somebody can tell me right now that's $2,000. It's gone up. Last year was 200, 10x. It could be 2,000. I'm not going to sell it because that's just a cool card. It's like a conversation piece, and I think it may be $2,000 at some point in time. Maybe 10, 20 years from now. But that's another one I don't think I'm ever going to sell. As far as a pickup, so those cards obviously I've had for a while. Those Gaudy ones. As far as my favorite pickup from this year, I don't know, man. It's a tough. Oh, I picked up a cool Kobe card, right? I picked up a cool Kobe card in a PWCC auction, not the last one, the one before it, and I think it was a steal because everybody was kind of still feeling out the price discovery one, right? I picked up a Kobe PSA 10 Apparitions. That cool Kobe Apparitions, a refractor. So I picked one of those up, and I'm pretty sure, I've had it for a couple months now, but I'm pretty sure the last 9 just sold for basically what I paid for a 10 a couple months ago. So there are cards in the hobby that are going up, those low pop kind of things. That's a cool one. It's not exactly one I think I would have to hold forever per se, but I know 2 parts to that question, right? Like, what's one of my favorite pickups? That's one of my favorite pickups from this year. Not necessarily one I need to hold forever.
All right. Jordan says, here's some Olympic stars.
She's
Simone
everywhere.
Biles, Caleb Dressel, Katie Ledecky, Sydney McLaughlin, Sha'Carri Richardson. I've only known one of the 6 that you mentioned.
Me too. But I have to look him up now.
Anthony says, what you taught him about trading up is super valuable, and he feels that you should share that more. Very nice,
value what I'm
Anthony.
into a card for. I traded. What Anthony asked me was he had cards that he brought to the show that he knew what he was into for, and he wound up, like what he paid for them, and he wound up using those cards and adding some cash to those cards or adding other cards to those cards to now be in another card. And his question was, how do I figure out now what I'm into this new card? Right. So if I want to figure out like what's the price, like let's just say he traded 2 cards that he would, he paid $10 for each one, and he's now got this Patrick Mahomes card. Like, what do I value that at? And what I told him was, because we like to track this stuff, we like to, do this on like Excel spreadsheets if you're an old guy like me, or however you Google, however you want to keep track of stuff. That way, now, okay, I'm into this Mahomes for this. I want to sell it when I 2x that, or when I make 50% or whatever it is. And what I told him was, treat it as if it's a new deal, right? So figure out now what you paid for those old cards and cash out. You know what I mean? So like now you're starting a new transaction, right? So if the Mahomes you got is worth $100, right? And that's what it's been going for. That's a comp on it, right? And you have these 2 cards that you were into for $20, right? When you made that Mahomes deal, you've now turned that 20 into 100, and start with that Mahomes fresh at 100. You've made your money. Your basis in that Mahomes is now $100. Call yourself now profitable. You've made 5x, 20 to 100 or whatever it is on those cards that you traded, and start with the Mahomes from there. Because if you start with the Mahomes and you're like, really, I'm only into it for 20, but and then somebody offers you, the Mahomes, someone offers you 110 or $120 for it, you're like, oh wow, I'm making 5-6x. You're not really on the Mahomes card. So that's the way I do it. It's like a bright line. You draw that line in the sand. You say, okay, this is how much it's worth. I'm starting again. Right? I've made my money on those other ones that I used in the trade. Let's go from here.
Cash 382S. Jordan has been in talks with the Baseball Hall of Fame. Thoughts on Jordan baseball cards?
Jordan's been in talks of baseball, like to get into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
That's what he wrote. That's what I think he meant. He's been in the conversation about possibly getting into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Well, maybe
I don't think he will.
Maybe just to send stuff, right? I mean, he's not going to get it. For what? Like one of the worst baseball players to ever play as a basketball player? Like what? Jordan has been in talks of Baseball Hall of Fame. Maybe to like send the cleats to it or something like that. Maybe, I guess. So thoughts on Jordan baseball cards now? I've always liked the Jordan baseball cards, but as more of a novelty kind of thing. We've given a bunch of plays here, but I gave a Russell Wilson baseball card as a play. Remember he has a Bowman.
Yes,
his first card from
2011 or 29.
I thought it was 09. I thought it was 2009. So I mean, like the real Russell Wilson rookie card is actually his baseball card, and we gave Ringu Singh, the $1 million arm guy. There's a baseball Bowman card for him, and now he's in the WWE. So I like
someone
that.
just bought them and they put it on their story and tagged us.
A little refractor. So I saw that. It's pretty cool stuff. I mean, the Jordan baseball stuff. There are some really cool Jordan cards that surround his return. There was a baseball card. I'm trying to remember what it was. It's a tough one. I can't look this stuff up, but I think it was 1993-94 Upper Deck SE. Right? They had a cool hey, he's coming back. It was just like Jordan's head. But there was another card. It reminds me of like what Kyrie did with his Uncle Drew. There was a card called Johnny Kilroy. I'm telling you, look it up for me. See if you can pull this up for YouTube Live and the shares and the whole deal, right? It's put in it's like Upper Deck Johnny Kilroy. See if you can look that up. And it was like an alter ego, Jordan's playing baseball. Oh no, look, it's Johnny Kilroy. He's back playing basketball now. I'm telling you, look it up, see if you can find that. So there are some cool, ancillary cards. When he came back, his first finest card, you see him shooting like this. After he came back from retiring, it's got the number 45 on it. Like that's a cool card also because he came back originally wearing number 45, and you can see the number. It's like right on his jersey, very very prominently displayed. Can you find the Johnny Kilroy? Is there even one on eBay? I'm an old man. I remember this stuff. I remember when he came back, like buying these cards and looking for these like Upper Deck. There it is. That's him. See, look, he's number 4, Johnny Kilroy. That's Michael Jordan. So there you go. So like that. See, I remember that card. So I mean, there are some cool.
That's a pretty cool play.
So yeah, Johnny Kilroy. So it's kind of like Uncle Drew, it's one of these he's coming back, but he's going to do it under a different name, kind of thing. I know I kind of went on a little tangent there, but yeah, I mean the Jordan baseball cards, they're cool also. I mean it was one of those things in history. And what's funny is if this Space Jam movie with LeBron comes out and it's got any type of success and kids go and watch the original Space Jam, that movie was made while Jordan was a baseball player. The premise of that movie was they got all the best, they kidnapped all the best talent of the NBA. They took Ewing and Barkley and Sean Bradley. I mean, but not Michael Jordan. And they said, why did you take him? And they're like, well, he's a baseball player. And, there are scenes where he's striking out in the Birmingham Barons and stuff like that. And this was getting him back into playing basketball for the Toon Squad. So maybe that might, bring it back a little bit. Hey, why did Jordan play baseball again? It was 30 years ago, right? Almost. So, I like it. There are some cool Jordan baseball cards. There's even one from 91 Upper Deck, I think it was, while he was still playing basketball, like a precursor. So I remember I think it's 91 Upper Deck. It's the one, the one that everybody knows. That was before he retired and went to go play baseball. He was just, like taking batting practice, I think, with the Chicago Cubs team. And I remember as a kid, by the way, that people used to talk, oh, Michael Jordan could play baseball if he wanted to. He takes batting practice and hits home runs. And then he actually did it and was terrible. It went from like, oh yeah, he's the best athlete to maybe he can't do this baseball thing. But that first baseball card of his, that was before he played baseball.
Do you believe in the conspiracies of why he retired? Gambling and all that stuff?
I don't know. You know what I mean? There are people who retire at the peak. I mean, he had, his dad passed away and stuff as well. So that, there was a lot of stuff going on there. But there have been people who retired, and they left at the peak of their careers. And he did it the second time also. He could still play. I think he just won a championship, the 6th one, and then retired again. And he came back again. But Barry Sanders comes to mind. He retired, at the top of his game. Never won a championship really, but he was, he was, still in the prime of his career. Jim Brown didn't play that long. He went out to make movies. Go ahead.
Barry Sanders is Cage's favorite football player. Let's keep moving because I do have a hard stop. Let's keep rocking. This is a good one because you do cardboard relevant, and what Drake's asking is about cardboard irrelevant. What qualities of a card make the grade largely irrelevant? Is it low number only, or are there other areas?
I don't think there's anything that makes a grade irrelevant. I'll be honest. The way the cards are now, the grade is the most relevant thing for resale. The grade becomes less relevant the rarer the card is, and I think there are some people, and I probably have made the argument myself, that you shouldn't even get a 1-of-1 graded because what does it really add? But anything that's not a 1, I mean, and I understand 1-of-1, put it in a slab. This way it's protected and it's cool and it's in a case and it shows that it's authentic. That's, there's some value there. And I read something on Twitter today, actually, somebody posted, I'll get my 1-of-1s graded because there are so many 1-of-1s now, which is actually an interesting thought, right? In any given year, a player could have 50 1-of-1s, between 1-of-1 Genesis, 1-of-1 Black, 1-of-1 this, and all these releases that come out. There are so many 1-of-1s for all these rookies. It's like, well, you know what? I might as well get my 1-of-1 graded because now what separates my 1-of-1 optic from somebody else's 1-of-1 prism is that the optic happened to be a 10 that year. So I get, even with 1-of-1s, I would say that the grade is relevant. I think what Drake's asking on this is, would you still buy a card for a significant amount of money even though it's not a 10? And yeah, I mean, you're talking about like your LeBron exquisites that sell for 7 figures, even though they're BGS 8.5s, right? So yeah, something like that. When there aren't many higher grades, that's the story. Qualities of the card, it's never going to make the grade irrelevant, but there are qualities of a card that could help it when it's the same grade. That'll separate it. When it's a numbered card, if it's card number 1. If it's the person's jersey number, right? So those are obviously there. If it's something that's an RPA.
What's more valuable, jersey number or 1?
It depends on the person. You know what I mean? Like, I would say they're probably both the same. The jersey number is getting a little more love because like Top Shot and stuff like that, they even give like low numbers premiums, like serial digits 2, 3, 4, even though it's not the person's jersey number. I could really care about that. It depends. Some people collect jersey numbers. Drake, the other thing I come up with for you, taking grades out of it, if you're looking at something that is the same grade, what would be a differentiator? If it's an RPA, a better patch usually will bring more money, which now you've seen over the last couple of weeks, a lot of focus on that because it looks like people are actually putting patches in and like replacing patches to make it look like better patches.
I know you're not a patch buyer. You're actually, I don't know if you own an RPA. Do you?
I don't think so. I don't think I own an
You're
RPA
not,
at all.
Cage is not an RPA guy. He doesn't like autographs. But have you ever felt a patch? Like, is it that easy to swap patches in and out of cards?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for someone who's a pro at it, 100%, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't do it
Are
myself.
the patches not glued to the card?
I mean, so what? So it's glued. You take the glue out, and you glue in another one. You know. So
Cage makes these things.
no, I
make
mean,
it sound so easy.
I mean, I'm sure it's not easy, but think of the things that have been done to cards. I mean, I bought a Mickey Mantle card once that was bleached. You know, and people do stuff to these cards. These guys know what they're doing to these cards. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, look, with UFC, when I was in it a decade ago, people would pay way more money for a relic, you know, Shorts relic, you name it, that had blood on it. So yeah, seriously, there were like blood on the relics. You know, people were putting ketchup on the white swatches. People were bleeding on them themselves.
You could just smell it, no?
I wasn't smelling somebody's game used card. That may be your thing. It's not exactly something that I'm going to do. You can smell somebody else's game one shorts, but not for me. But Drake, back to your question. In addition to the RPA, team colors has become a huge thing, right? Team colors, and it almost makes me want to be a Celtics fan for basketball because nobody gives a crap about green because it's a retail only. But if you're a Celtics collector, those green ones are pretty cool, right? You want to buy a Tatum, you buy the green parallel because it's team color. I've seen a really healthy premium being paid for team colors. You know,
Giannis is another example. The Giannis green is much more valuable than the retail greens of like Trey and Luka.
Yeah, and it's fun too because Luka, it's blue $199 or a blue ice, whereas Trey, it's red, which is at a $299. Like people would probably pay more for the red out of $299 than the blue, which is $199. So it's interesting.
Cage has a red.
I hope
Cage has a red.
I also have a purple out of 75 for Trey. Hanging on to that one.
That makes sense. Are you ready for a soccer question? So Cage woke up this morning feeling dangerous. He went into our OG sports group and he just started. Soccer. He must have sent like an 1,000 paragraph on his predictions for Euro 2020. The funny thing is, we all know he doesn't watch soccer and he's a big critic of it. And then he somehow tied it into Formula One. It made no sense, but it was
because I'm making a joke. Everyone's like, "Cage, is this you talking about soccer?" And I'm like, "No, it's Formula One." I'm like, what are you talking about? Foden? You know, Raheem Sterling, doesn't he drive for Ferrari?
Dude, shout out to Sterling. Sterling played 66 games for the national team. He played in 13 games, and today he scored his first goal for the team.
First one.
All right, Zola Cards asks, so it's not exactly science, but my impression is that player performance in soccer drives card prices to a much greater extent right now than in basketball and baseball. Do you think this is a sign that soccer cards are younger, less mature? Would you categorize this phenomenon as a good thing or not? Assuming, of course, I could substantiate the claim beyond just my impression. Or a sign of something else, bubble tendencies, genuine enthusiasm for the matches. I would say it's price discovery. But by the way, this is true for Euros, but it's also true for Champions League and domestic leagues. Great question. Zola Cards.
So Zola, I think you're right. But I don't think you're right for the reason you think. I think if you polled the average collector, even the average soccer collector who's in this because soccer is hot now, they can name for you 10 soccer players, right? And you're talking about give them the gimmies of Messi and Ronaldo right off the bat, right? And they'll name for you Mbappe, they'll name for you Haaland and the whole deal. But if you give them the average basketball collector, they can name whole starting lineups. It's only 5 guys that start for a whole team, right? So there are a lot of people who get hot in and out. You know, there are fans of teams, you name it. Same thing with baseball. A lot of baseball players, but people can name for you a whole bunch of baseball players. The reason why I think you see performance, drive the card values is because when you have something like what happens today with Sterling, he might not have been somebody that people would have named in their top 10. Some people know who he is, but as Andrew says, he didn't really score a goal in any of these majors, you name it. But he was the guy who scored the one goal against Croatia today. And there will be people looking for his cards because of that, because now it's a big stage. And, on the Croatia team, if there was a big win, does anybody know anybody besides Luka Modric, right? No, right? There are a bunch of names that people don't know, but that's the only one that I would be able to name myself, right? So
Persicic, Vlasic, Medicic.
Right, well, you like Vlasic.
Medvedev.
You're a pickle guy, but
dude, all of their last names end in itch. Have you seen that?
Well, yeah, I mean they're Croatian. So, but yeah, I mean, listen, this is the deal, right? So I think that you'll see more, you know, price correlation because people just don't know what they're looking. I open boxes of soccer cards, right? And I pull out like in this year's Bundesliga, I pulled out 3 guys, right? I pulled out like Bellingham, I pulled out Wirtz, and I pulled out Mokaku, right? And anybody else, I'm not pulling any. I don't even care. Like Holland's second year, Reina maybe. But if somebody from that league happens to score a goal or has a 3-goal game or whatever it is, all right, I'm going to go down, I'm going to run to the box, and I'm going to grab his cards, I'm going to put them up for sale. You know what I mean? I'm not looking for him other than that. So and there's more of that in soccer just because, you know, for what it's worth, I know soccer is a hugely popular sport, but it was not hugely popular with card collectors until recently. So people just don't know the names. And when they do have good games, they find their cards and they sell them. So
Let me throw some numbers at you guys.
Sure.
Because I think it's just a numbers game here when it compares soccer to other sports. So in NBA, there's 450 players you could invest in. 30 teams, 15 players per team. Football, there's 52 players per team, 32 teams. That's 1,664, and divided by 2 because there's special teams and offensive linemen and depth that you can't really invest in.
But and none of those guys are ever going to have plays anyway. And you get to basically take half of them out because nobody invests in defensive players anyway. But yeah.
Right, exactly. But then you have soccer. Soccer, you have 30 teams per domestic league, 20 players per team, and then you have 5 leagues. That's a total of 3,000 investable players.
Yeah. And you can't invest in all of them. You never know. So, yeah, performance is when somebody has a good game. All of a sudden, their cards are going to go up.
Awesome. A few more questions. This is good stuff. We're doing good on time. Okra King asks, do you have any tips for trading safely with people online, Cage?
We just put Okra King in one of our groups. He's a farmer. Welcome to the groups there, Okra King. Yeah,
Last of a dying breed.
It's nice to have, you know, farmers there. We were talking about tomatoes the other day. Listen, you come in, we chat. We'll talk about anything. You know, Okra King, you know, welcome. So tips for trading safely with people online, right? Vouchers are huge, right? Check them out. If it's somebody you're doing a decent size card with, don't feel like you have to just trust. I mean, you know, go ahead and ask. It's the easiest thing in the world. I've seen them all the time on Instagram. Hey, you got anybody who'll vouch for you? Put up a vouch post. You know what I mean? And 40 people will come in and do it, right? You know, the strength in numbers online. I mean, I know sometimes there's a lot of like shady dealing that goes on, you know, behind the scenes in you know, on the internet. But, you know, check if they're in any other groups. If somebody you're doing a trade with, ask what they're in. Ask if they're in a Facebook group. You can go in and check it out. You know, and hopefully now, Okra King, if you're in our groups, you're making trades with some of Luca Nation. And I'll vouch for him. So, you know, Zola cards. Thank you for addressing my question. You make really good points. I guess it leans towards the market being somewhat immature in terms of the core knowledge. True. Of the players in sport. And listen, guilty as charged right here myself. I mean, I'll read articles, which is why I came into the group today because I was excited about Euro. I mean, I'm excited about a new sport. I'm not really heavily invested in it. I do like to expand, you know, my knowledge base into different sports, especially because not because I'm going to be buying cards, but I know you guys have questions about it and I want to know about it myself. I wanted to be able to figure out why Sancho was left off the roster and why Rashford wasn't starting. So yeah, it was me. It was actually me in the group talking today, Andrew, I swear. But, you know, I felt dangerous. I was reading some articles this morning, right? So, but yes, 100% Zola cards. It's new. Right? Like anything else, you know, people will learn, people will start watching, and, you know, it's hard to invest in all of them, right? Basketball, you kind of know. If you really wanted to scattershot, you pick 20 people. You know, one of those 20 is going to be the MVP probably that year. You know, in soccer, yeah, I mean, we know those top guys, but beyond that, you know, there's a million dark horse candidates. I mean, nobody was talking about Mbappe before that World Cup. Trust me. They were talking about Pogba. They were not talking about Mbappe, right?
They were talking about Pogba.
Right?
They were absolutely talking about Pogba.
And then he comes out of nowhere, right? And this year, who knows who that's going to be? Is it going to be Foden? People are talking about him, but maybe it's somebody else, right? Maybe it's
it changes as fast as MLB prospects.
Haaland came out of nowhere. That's all he's talking about. Everybody's talking about Mbappe, and then it's all of a sudden it's Haaland everywhere, and you know, so
Haaland also scored the most goals, I think, in the Bundesliga. So it's not that they just talked about him; he performed. I think that's also equally important.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you know, in soccer, there's so many of them. I think right now, if the question is, will performance drive the price in that? The answer is 100% yes, and it's because there's just so many players. There's just so many people, in soccer. Let's see.
Real quick one for me to give
Nice.
Andrew a chance to speak. I appreciate it, Jordan. I like to listen and learn from a really smart man, co-host, and friend. Talking about you, Cage. Just kidding. How has my approach changed in the hobby? When I first got into the hobby, I had a clear vision of going after Zion cards. I watched them in college. I've said this a million times, but I was way more spread out. So I had Zion, but I also went into Kobe really quickly. I went into some other guys like Ja as well. Now I'm much more patient, but I'm also aggressive. When I see a card or a deal that I really like, it's because I'm studying the market on the back end. Like the Spider-Man, for example, the Spider-Man Hollow. It was just an opportunity. I was like target and a shot, but way more patient, way more aggressive. Make sense? Or is that confusing, Cage?
No, yeah, I mean, it
You're
makes
so
100%
suppressed.
sense.
You're so suppressed me.
I'm trying to give
anonymous. Your anonymous followers tell you to press me.
I'm trying to give you, time to speak.
I almost got Cage to smile.
No, I mean, they do say to press me, but I mean, that's on your picks.
Press
your
me,
plays.
not you.
For me to press you.
Yourself.
But on our picks, right? That's on your plays. If you make a stupid play, I'll call you out on it. But, sometimes there are smarter plays. I also have no problem with that Spider-Man play at all. I think it's a cool play. I mean, I own one myself. So.
Oh, okay. Ready? So DM and takeover. We might have one more question after this. A handful of episodes ago, you brought up the idea that things like base prism rookies that we've seen take a dip aren't necessarily dying so much as we need fresh eyes from new markets on them and needing entry level stuff to collect flip early on. The international market was brought up. What are ways, if any, that collectors and flippers on U.S. soil can be a part of expanding the love to other countries? Or is it a matter of sports themselves doing their job to expand their audience? I know that was tough for me, Cage.
So this is Dan Nofi.
How'd you know? I don't get enough love for reading these complicated questions.
So Dan, the answer is both of those, right? So obviously the leagues that do a better job of expanding their base, they are going to win, right? That's why basketball has overtaken baseball. That's why football is expanding out there. You see games in London, you see games in Mexico City, you see the game expanding itself. And obviously, if one of these young superstars turns into that generational talent, if Zion turns into what people think he's going to turn into, that's going to help expand the cards. But Dan, I'm going to use one of your own tweets from today. Guys, check out Dan's takeover, the DMN takeover on Twitter. He tweeted today. I'm going to paraphrase it because I try to remember everything I read. I read this earlier today on Twitter. He said something like, it's the same people who are in the hobby, making the best deals in the hobby right now and having fun in the hobby that are the ones that are, they've been in it for a while and they're not complaining. They're not, getting involved in the drama of the hobby. I've paraphrased it, but you can check out his actual tweet. I don't want to butcher it too badly, but I think that's what we can all do, right? And it doesn't mean you have to be flowery and puff the hobby up and pump these cards up and stuff like that. There could still be some honesty to it, but maybe it's a little less of the hobby drama, right? We've seen so much hobby drama, so much, problems in the hobby, so much, stuff going on. And really, what are we doing? We're talking about sports and cards, I mean, like, Andrew says this all the time, right? Let's try to have some positivity. And I try to bring in some realism. And by the way, that's not just for our show. It's not just for today. That is our lives. I mean, even just us talking about our podcast, our goals. And he comes, with this, and I'm like, okay, let's just take it down a notch, pal. So it's this. I think it's part of what works.
It's
healthy. I'm talking about really expanding the hobby. What I think brings new people in is when other people who are not in it, one, see us making money, okay, and that's fine. But two, if that's not there, or if it is and it's not the driving, it's people having fun, right? I mean, you saw people who with the Z horses and the Top Shot and this and that. Yeah, it was great they're making money, but people were enjoying it, right? People were enjoying racing the horses. Hearing about the card show that Anthony went to today and that he was having fun there and that he was able to make deals and that's a good thing. That's the kind of stuff that should be shared. The fact that people are having fun, making trades. If you're a set builder, building sets. picking up PC cards, having good transactions with people, not always bad ones, not always the fraud, not always this guy screwed this up. I wish that there were 2 posts positive. I got this new collection. I got this new one for every one post of, look at this scammer on eBay. Or look at this guy. What should I do now, guys? I just mailed him the card. It's worth 50%. And look, he sent me a picture. There's a scratch on the back of it. I know we're never going to have, 0 of that. I know it's impossible to get rid of that in the hobby, but it seems like we really try to shine a light on a lot of the negative and not enough of the positive. So I think that really, Dan, is what I would try to do. I try to, kind of focus on the fun a little bit more, because that's what gets people involved, right? I mean, we've talked about this a million times, right? Nobody wants to go do something if it's miserable. But people want to join with you if you're having fun, right? So
I think that's an amazing place to end. Thank you, all of our listeners. Thank you, all of our live participants. Thank you for all the questions. We appreciate it all. It's kind of become this little tradition to wrap up Sunday night, to wrap up the weekend with our community. It's really special. And this is a great comment from Zola Cards, Mark Lapointe. I feel like it's French. Maybe I'm wrong.
He probably just says Lapointe.
Lapointe. Thanks for starting the Luca Nation Footy Fam IG group. That's what it's all about. That's a growing
group. If anybody's watching this or anybody listens to this and is a soccer person and wants to get in the footy group, that's one of our more recent groups. We're filling that one. You want to talk some soccer with now the new expert Cage in soccer, who knows everything about the English team. I got to now research other teams, so that's the problem.
One team at a time.
I mean, and now a North Macedonia expert. They played today, right?
Every big tournament, British fans are notorious for pumping their team up and being like, this is our year. And then they have an unceremonial exit. Have you learned that as you're studying the English national team?
Yeah. Well, who was number 10? Bald guy. What was his name? He was like their Landon Donovan. What was his name? Come on.
Wayne Rooney.
Who I'm talking about. Wayne Rooney, right? Wayne Rooney. That was the guy who was going to finally bring it home for them. No.
Rooney. No, they didn't do. There's an amazing game on Tuesday, I believe. Germany for France. It's going to be
a lot of people
insane.
Think those are the two teams. I mean, I've seen a lot of predictions. France winning, Germany winning. Those are the two. I've seen the expert predictions. The most picks I've seen are either Germany or France.
I think that's spot on. Thank you, Luca Nation.